Okay, I'll say welcome. I won't say good afternoon because there's some people from Perth joining us. So good morning to people in Perth, afternoon to those in Kiwiland, and hello to everyone else. Thanks for joining us in this second series of the webinars. Yesterday was about the Data Cube product, typically designed for sales managers. Today is about the Salesmatrix SWOT app, which is specifically designed for account managers and sales reps. Let's just jump into it. We will have time for questions at the end. If you do have an urgent request on the way through, by all means, unmute yourself and interrupt. But this is effectively the agenda for the next half hour. A quick overview of Salesmatrix as a company and the products in our suite, just to give us sort of understanding of where SWOT fits. Then we'll jump into discussion around SWOT for iOS, Android, and Windows, which is the app we're going to cover. I will be doing the demo today on an Android device, conscious that not everyone has the exact same experience across the different platforms. The function's all the same. They just slightly different user interface on Apple and Windows, but functionally they're all the same. That's the same code base. We just have to make particular tweaks for the different operating systems. We're also going to talk about the admin portal. Basically, the administrator of the account has the ability to manage it, and we'll talk about how that all works within the admin portal. Salesmatrix as a company is really focused on a particular niche in the marketplace, which is business intelligence tools for business-to-business, inventory-based, wholesale stock and debtors type businesses. Typically, they're going to have a repeat customer channel. That customer channel would be fairly well established over a number of years, and effectively, we're looking at analytics that help grow the organization. Now, the focus of us as an organization is to help you grow, as I said, but growth is a formula of acquisition of new customers plus retention of existing customers and development of existing accounts. We're not going to help you with acquisition of new customers. We're not going to sort of put any effort into that. There's lots of marketing tools and websites and various ways of acquiring customers. Our real focus is on how you ensure optimal retention and optimal account development within an existing established channel. We do have 4 products in the suite. I'm not going to go into great detail on them. The Data Cube product, which is what we covered off yesterday, is our mainstay product. It's 20 years mature. We continue to enhance that product, but majority of our enhancements are going into the SWOT application alongside the Data Cube solution. An enhancement to the Data Cube is the budget solution. A lot of people aren't aware that this exists. We haven't really done much promotion of it, but it's the ability to create a budget within Salesmatrix and then manage budget versus actual in the budget tool. We also have a dashboard tool. None of our sort of like the Data Cube product or SWOT are really designed for board packs or A4 style printing. We're not that traditional type reporting tool. As much as we try and resist it, a lot of our customers do want sort of this dashboard A4 style reporting, so we can produce it using our dashboards solution. The key benefit is that we've got access to most of the ERP and inventory management systems on the market. So we do have a really good syncing tool for the data to be able to be presented in the cloud in this format. We also license costs tend to be a lot cheaper than the likes of Power BI and Tableau and Click, which exist in the marketplace in a similar space. What we're going to talk about today is Salesmatrix SWOT. SWOT is a smartphone or tablet or PC-based app. The only way to get SWOT is from the respective app stores. So you need to go to your Apple iOS App Store, Android Play, or Windows. What do they call it? I think it's the Windows App Store or the Windows. Within that, it's typically how modern operating systems will install. Your data exists in the cloud, as they say, but the application will exist locally on your device, whichever one of the devices you've got. Effectively, the premise behind SWOT is to take the complexity of our Data Cube product and really presented in a way that's easier for reps to digest and focuses them on the activities that are going to really optimize the account development and retention that I mentioned. It can be used also by product managers and warehouse managers and marketing officers, because the SWOT does do a product SWOT, not just a customer SWOT. The focus of today's session is really on customer SWOT, but keep in mind that basically everything I explained from a customer perspective is also available from a product view perspective. Firstly, we pull your data. We pull your data from your ERP system, your accounting system, your inventory management system. We do have most of the ERP and accounting systems on the market. The note I will make is, even if you change your ERP system, as many people are doing over the next few years, we do have the ability to retain your history in SWOT. So even though you might lose it in your ERP system, we have the ability to retain it from multiple systems. And so the ability to basically be able to keep your history is there and integrate to alternative ERPs, etc., is possible. Effectively, I'm going to jump in and show you SWOT, but I'm going to do a bit of a reverse today. I want to just explain the basic premises. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. There's another one in there, which is an N, but it doesn't really fit the name of the product. So it's really SWOT N, the N being notes, if for those of you who have used it. But effectively what we've done is our Data Cube product is effectively built out algorithms over a 20-year period to analyze data. And it created a lot of power within the product, but with power came complexity of operation, and it really became the sort of thing that not the average person on the street really loved to use, and particularly not the average sales rep who just wants to get out and sell. So for the last decade, we've been working on this premise of really simplifying it down, taking complex algorithms and presenting it in a way that is easy to digest. So each time I talk to or visit a customer, I can just have a look at a playbook or a scorecard to really understand what's going on with that particular customer. Sitting in the back end of SWOT as an app is the SWOT administrative portal. Only the administrator has access to this, and the administrative portal is where you manage your users. So give access to, and importantly, if someone leaves, take access away from users of the system. It's there where you can basically manage the way that it interacts with your ERP system, and you can see who's using it and who's not. So I'm going to start by effectively jumping in and showing from an administrative point of view the capabilities of CustomerSWOT for the account manager, not just the users of the system. In a way, I'm going to basically also highlight the fact that the account manager can see what's going on. So the first thing that you land on is the users page. Within the users page, I can effectively add new users at any point, keeping in mind that you are licensed on a number of users basis. So don't go in there and willy-nilly add 50 users thinking that you're going to get away without an increase in your fees. But you can effectively come in very easily, select on a user like Andrew, say Andrew has left. There's a button here for is active. So in order to make him inactive, i.e. block his access, I can just basically untick that button. And once I untick it, you'll see it's saved, and now he is not an active user of the system. The other thing that you'll notice is that I do have the ability to limit what those reps can see. So when we create the link to your accounting system, we can actually pull in dimensions, and the dimensions we can pull in are flexible. One of the dimensions that we pull in can be the sales rep associated with the actual customer in your ERP system. And what we're able to do is we can, for example, in Graham's case, I can lock the customer filter so he can't see any customer but his own customers. Now, this is going to rely on the cleanliness of your data in your ERP system, so, or in your inventory management system. But basically, once we lock the filter, when that rep logs into SWOT, they're only going to be presented with those customers that are presented to them. And it's a great way to focus them on the task at hand. So effectively, the user management is fairly straightforward. Typically, there would only be 1 or 2 administrators of the system, and only 1 or 2 would have the ability to log into here. Within the menu on the left, you'll see a series of other menu items. I won't go into great detail against each of them. The one I will focus on here is the connection script. So depending on the system that you're operating on, if it's an attaché, an MYOB XO, or an advanced business manager, which I think is the majority of people on the call, we can script where the data gets pulled from. This is an example of an MYOB XO customer. And in the customer script, we're pulling things like the group name, the staff name for the sales rep, etc. And these are then the ability for us to create filters, but it's very important to get the groupings right in your source ERP data, because what a lot of what a SWOT is doing is profiling customers and looking for cross-sell opportunities based on a similar profile. So an example I will give is if you're dealing in food service where a lot of our customers work, if you're dealing with supermarkets isn't a great grouping of your customers if you're dealing with Coles, Woolworths, Aldi, and you're also dealing with the next level down like the Richies, or the next level down like the independents who only have 1 or 2 stores. They're not exactly the same customer. And so what we try and get people to do is be as granular as possible in the way you group your customers and your products within your ERP system, because those groupings inform the artificial intelligence engines within SWOT on effectively how things correlate and what opportunities should be presented. And so get that right, and you'll find that the SWOT app is very on point with the data that it presents. Get that wrong, and you might find yourself looking at the suggestions and going, well, that customer's never going to buy that product. I don't know why it's suggesting it. Well, the starting point to get that right is to get the groupings right within the ERP system. And we're happy to work with you on that and make suggestions. Like, for example, if you've got customers across Australia, rather than looking at them by state, we do recommend sort of getting a bit more granular than that. Postcode may not be overly relevant because it might be too small of a region, not enough customers, but maybe things like local government area become more relevant, because effectively, particularly if you're in things like food, certain foods do well in certain geographical locations, whereas they may not do as well in others. And where the cross-sell opportunities come in is where you've got that granularity of the grouping of your customers. I know these customers are in Western Sydney. Western Sydney customers typically like to buy this type of curry powder, which is different to what someone in the northern suburbs might buy, etc. So the way that you go about grouping your products and your customers is very important, and that is driven by the script that's set up in the admin portal. More things about the admin portal is the admin can come in and see who's logged into the system. Now, this is my demo data. There's only 2 people that have logged in today, but I can come in and I can see who's using the app, how often they're using it, how many customers and products they're looking up each time they use it. So as a way to enforce, I guess, change and system usage, which is one of the hardest things to do with the typical B2B sales rep community, the administrator does have the ability to come in and look at the logs to see who is actively using the system. And I do very much encourage you to do that, and do that prior to any sales meetings that you have, so you can actually ask people about why they're not using it, or encourage those who are using it to tell their stories about the benefit they've got out of using it. Within the system, there's a lot of flexibility to actually change wording and the way things work. I'm not going to go into this great detail, but if you don't like the way the wording is in the SWOT app, you can actually come in. All the variables are tailorable within this portal. You can also come in and change the sensitivity of the variables. For example, if you basically it's only showing 5 customer opportunities at the moment, but you want to see more, well, you can actually come in here. That is a variable, so it can show more than 5 opportunities against a customer. You can also change the percentage as far as the probability percentage on what an opportunity looks like, et cetera, et cetera. So this is driven within the admin portal. The other thing about the admin portal, and a feature that's come in since our last year's webinar, is the ability to have notifications within the application. Notifications are first and foremost automated. So if you do have within your user settings, your sales reps attached to their particular customers, then they should be getting daily notifications about opportunities or problems within their particular customer data set. If I come into here, I can actually go and have a look at all the notifications that have been going out of my system. So we can start to see, what's going on with particular customers, etc. That will pop up as a little red dot in the corner of the app on their phone, also push through as a standard notification. And it will also then be within the list, as we will show you in a minute, as far as that notification. You can see here that the administrator can actually see whether those notifications are read. So if you've got a problem with a rep who's not reading the notifications, you can very much highlight it here because those notifications aren't getting read within the system. All right, I'm going to jump out of the admin portal. And in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump out of my laptop altogether. And I'm now going to swap over to my Android device. As I said, if you're on iOS or you're using the Windows app more than your app, you might find some slight variations in what I'm about to show you to what you see, but the fundamental principles are the same. It just might be a slight user interface variation. So everyone is basically determined not by who's logged in, not by what device you log in from. You can log in if you've got an iPad and a smartphone and a Windows. You can use the same username and password on all those devices. So when you're out on the road, you might use your smartphone. When you're back in the office, you might use the Windows version of the app. I'm just going to log in now, and it's going to take me into the default screen, which is my customer list. Okay, so let's talk about the navigation of the app to start off before we really jump into the customer list. We have changed the navigation over the last 12 months. So we used to have in the bottom right corner the settings button. That's now been replaced by the notifications. So as I mentioned before, there are notifications now being pushed through to bring to your attention problems or opportunities within your customers. Those notifications can also be pushed from rep to rep or sales manager to individual rep. And we'll show that during the session. The other thing that we've added in the last 12 months is a contact list. Now, a contact list is associated with but separate from your customers. The idea behind a contact list is that there could be multiple contacts at any one customer. You can also have things like geographic location of the contact so that you can integrate this with your GPS coordinates, etc. And I could actually, if this was legitimately right, I could use this to navigate my way to my individual customer. So we're doing that from a contact because the company that you bill might have multiple locations. It's the contact that is relevant to the individual location. And here's an example where I can actually see that. If I've got other customers in the same area, I will see the pins on the map and start to be able to see what the opportunities to visit in the same area at the same time are. So that's been new. The contacts and the notifications are two new buttons down the bottom. In order to put those two buttons down the bottom, what we've done is we've moved the settings up underneath the little hamburger menu in the right. I call it the hamburger menu. It's the little 3 blue horizontal lines. If I click on that, you'll now see that we've moved the settings button up to there. We've also included under that the ability to log out, favorites, which we'll cover off, and the ability for you to actually add prospects into the system if you want to remind yourself for follow-up, etc. I'm going to talk about the settings. The settings allow you to define how you view the product. So you can show whether you're looking in currency, what the units are, whether the decimals are relevant to you or not. You can change your language. The system is multilingual. So if you basically do have staff where English is a second language, they could actually set it up in their own language. You can also define some of the aspects of the product. So by default, when you look up a customer, the system will show 6 months of activity against that customer. If 6 months isn't enough, you can look at 12 months, even 24 months. The only hesitation I say against 24 months, it does mean on the little phone, you've got to scroll a bit to see the 24 months, but I could very easily change that. So I've now changed that. Next time I logged in, that will now show 12 months, not 6 months. You'll also see the customer filter. If I'm an administrator, I can change what I'm filtering the customers on. If I'm set up that I can't change it, it will always be filtered to my customer group as the sales rep. But if I am an administrator, I can come in and I can look at the different groups across my customers. I can also change what I see in the app. This is a question that actually got emailed ahead of the session. If you're the sort of person who uses product codes rather than product names, then you can actually define that within the settings of SWOT. or if you prefer the customer debtor account code and the name of the customer, you get to define that here. So the customer name display and the product name display are at your behest. A lot of people who are dealing in SKUs, because they've got so many products, you might want to put, say, code and name. So what you'll see is the SKU first, the double pipe, which is the 2 vertical lines, followed by the name of the product. These other areas here are basically your password and how the data is sourced and your ability to log out from there. I'm going to close out from there. I'm going to go back now, and the one last thing in the top right corner is then my filters. The filters are another way to actually limit your customer list, where you can say, hey, I just want to look at my top customer opportunities. I want to look at who my top customers are this week. Where are the customers who have stopped buying? Show me the stop buying alerts. So these are just the customers who have stopped buying since a certain date, etc. A note, we can customize the filters on a account by account basis. So there are some people online, say from FTA Foods, we're basically in the process of customizing your filter for your stock short dates and things like that. So filters against customers and filters against products are definable. But you need to contact us about those definitions and what it is that you want. There are a series of standard definitions within the standard app, but they can be enhanced above that. Now that's the navigation. The next thing we're going to do is get back to the customer list. So the customer list there, we've basically got all my customers listed in alphabetical sequence in a card file situation. I've got the ability to search, and it's a string search. I could start to search based on any word, and it will find where that is anywhere in my customer base. And it's an instant search. I don't have to hit enter or anything like that. I've also got the ability to just scroll along the top based on the alphabet, and I can get to customers that I want to get to. Now, the little colored traffic light, the dot on the left, that represents this customer's position on the bell curve as far as revenue. Are they average, above average, or below average? Now, green means they're above average as far as revenue. Red means they're below average as far as revenue. Yellow means they're average. If there's gray, it means they haven't had enough transactions to warrant a ranking. If it's blue, they've never done a transaction with you and they're considered what we call a prospect. So effectively, that's the color coding of the dot on the left. The color coding of the writing represents their margin. A green writing would represent a high margin customer. A black writing, because it's easier to read than yellow, black writing represents average margin, and red represents low margin. So very quickly, I can, when I'm looking at my customer list, see, for example, here that American Metal is a high revenue, average margin customer. But Action Fabrications is a high margin, average revenue customer. So it just gives me a little pointer to the type of customer they are before I'm dealing with them. Now, one thing I want to bring to your attention is the ability for me to create a filter, which is my favorites filter. Now, where most of our reps use this is with their call planning. So whether you're doing it on a daily basis as to who I'm going to call in on today, or whether you're doing it on a weekly basis, the rep would sit down at the start of the day or the start of the week or the end of the previous week, and they'll go, okay, this week I'm going to visit American Metal and Plastics. I select that customer, and you'll see the little star with the plus in the top right corner. If I hit the star with the plus, that's now added American Metal Fabrics to my call list or my favorites list. I can then go through and go, okay, I'm also going to visit Greenville Tool and Die. I'm going to go and visit hardware distribution, etc. Now, in order to get to my favorites, I just hit the hamburger menu and you'll see the favorites list. So now what it's done, it's got my list of ones that I've favorited. Now, the way people use this with their call planning is as they visit those customers, they then remove them from the favorites list. It becomes an easy way to, look, these are the ones I'm going to call in on today. Okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to have a look at air components. Well, these guys are a pretty small customer to us. They buy 2 different products off us, and they're not a huge customer. But say I've just made the call, I've visited that customer, I've talked to them about other products in our suite. I then click and hold in the favorites view, and you'll see the delete button comes up in the top right. I can now remove them from my favorites list. Another way of viewing favorites, and I'm beating a dead horse here, is it's my call plan. So as I remove it from my favorites list, I'm effectively marking that I've done that call and I don't want to see it on my call plan for the rest of the day. Hopefully that's making sense. So let's jump into American Metal and Plastic. Is a good customer to look at from a, they've got a fair amount of transactions and understand what SWOT actually does. So within the strengths area, it's going to bring to my attention positives. And effectively the positives for this customer is they've bought 27 different products off us over time. But I can see down here that they're buying 4 products off us regularly. And there's an arrow there that points out for me to actually see what those 4 products are. So they're purchasing the 4 products off us. This one they're buying every 3 weeks. This one they're buying every 13 days. This one they're buying every 3 weeks. This one they're buying every 2 weeks. So it's identified these are the ones that they're buying on a regular basis, even though there's been 27 different SKUs they've bought off us over time. It's really only these 4 that they're buying sort of on a monthly or better basis. The other thing I can see here is I can see the purchases that they're generally buying off us every week. Some people see that as a negative. They don't want their customers buying weekly because you pay for the freight. They want to have a chat to that customer about bigger orders and actually buying only once a month. Or others see that as a positive, particularly if you're in, short date stock sort of environments. You do want to be dealing with people regularly, and a 7-day turn is good. But you can see there, the idea behind the product is it's plain English, so I don't have to explain what those texts under the strengths mean. A weakness is typically where someone has stopped buying, and I will find someone that stopped buying. I'll just jump into a different customer. Let's have a look at these guys. So here's Federal Mogul Corp. They've basically stopped buying 9 products off us. What stop buying means is they used to buy it off us, but they haven't bought it in the last 3 months or within the normal buying pattern. So this one here, they used to buy it every 2 weeks, but they haven't bought it in the last 6 months. They used to buy it every 3 weeks, so they haven't bought it in the last 2 months. Now, before you all turn off mute and say, yeah, but Matt, sometimes that's a product that we don't range anymore. What I would suggest is that we can hide that, and it doesn't need to be in your list, but you should action it before you hide it. If you don't range that product, well, we want to make sure that we're actually selling in the replacement product prior to we hiding it. And the way to hide it is I just click on it, and it drills down into that particular product. So it's telling me at the top, this is Federal Mogul Corp. They purchased this 16-ounce trigger spray and bottle on average every 3 weeks. They haven't done yada, yada, yada. What's the action I want to take? So drill down is effectively the action screen within SWOT. And so the action I might want to take with this one is I want to hide it because I know that it's actually a product that we're not ranging anymore. So the first thing I might do is might add a note, which is no longer ranged. Replaced with XYZ. And I've made sure that I've done that replacement. I've saved that note, and I've basically gone back to my action screen. Now I might want to go, okay, now I want to hide that item so it doesn't come up in my list. And so what you see there is rather than saying 9 stop buying products, they now stop buying 8, and that I've got that particular note that I've made against that item there is there for my manager to see. So that's the weaknesses. The opportunities is all about how good your groupings are in your ERP system, as well as what the maths will identify as opportunities. So you may have heard this story from me before, but Walmart did a study in the US on their most correlated items. And we all know that things like bacon and eggs correlate. When you sell bacon, you're going to sell eggs. But what they found is the number 1 correlated item with diapers, what we call nappies, was beer. And it was something that no one actually had perceived, but it was only when they looked at the analysis that it came up. So the same sort of analysis is being done on your data. It's same customer, same day. We will find correlations that aren't correlated necessarily in the way that you group your products or your customers. We'll just look for where they're buying the Big Mac, but they're not buying the fries and the Coke with that. That's where you're going to see it under the opportunities. I mentioned notes. Notes are something that aren't necessarily a strength or a weakness or a threat. They're just a comment on a buying habit. So the buying habit could be that this customer's, I think I showed before, there was one there, which was they typically buy it. They're only buying 2 different products off you, or it might say they normally buy on a Friday or a Monday or something like that. Okay, just conscious of time, I'm moving on. The same exact concept that I've gone through with the customers applies to the products. So you can actually drill into the products and see which customers are or aren't buying that product. And I can basically see the stock turns, the rotation on those items, and I can hunt down who's stopped buying, who should be buying, et cetera, using the products analysis. I mentioned the contacts. We've already gone through that. The next area I want to show is notifications. Notifications will be pushed to you automatically based on looking at the data and looking for where someone stopped buying or an opportunity that the system determines is great for amongst your customers. But I'm also able to send a notification to people. Now, this won't work for me because I'm the only user in this data set. But up here at the 2, I should be able to select another user. And I can select that user and I can send them a notification. Now, you could always send them a WhatsApp message, an SMS, an email. The benefit of sending the notification inside of SWOT is that it's going to be contextually relevant to what you're looking at. So if you've looked up a customer and you've seen they've stopped buying something and you want to bring that to attention of a rep, then send them the message in here so the rep can also go to that customer and see it. Hopefully that makes some sense. At that point, I'm conscious of the time. I am going to open it up to any questions. I probably expect questions. If you've got a question, you will need to unmute yourself and then ask away. No questions. What you will be able to do, if you're too embarrassed to ask the question now, or if something springs to mind that you want help on after this, I'm going to share my email address and mobile number. Feel free to reach out and happy to help. If you're in New Zealand, you've got Brent over there on the ground if you do need help. But effectively, you can contact us. By all means, contact me at matt@salesmatrix.au. No .com in there anymore. We've got rid of the .com, so it's just salesmatrix.au. For the Kiwi land guys, by all means, reach out to me. If you do need help on the ground, as I said, Brent's on the ground in New Zealand, can do that. Otherwise, my team with Michelle and Alexis can also help in any way. But feel free to reach out if there's any questions. If you feel the groupings aren't good enough because you don't feel the suggestive cells are good enough, then let's talk about how we can reclassify those within your ERP system and make them more relevant or exclude things. I think one of the customers has reached out to me before this session about how the sale of machinery throws out all their other sales and can we exclude it? Yes, is the answer. It's all just about the scripting that we do. On that note, unless there's any other questions, I'll thank you all for your time today. And yeah, by all means, reach out if you've got any questions. Cheers.
Thanks, Matt.